Welcome to Don't Whistle at Night podcast, where Navajo legends echo in the shadows. Darren and Dawn will guide you through the sacred fire of native storytelling, where the old stories breathe, the unknown walks among us, and voices, long hidden, rise to be heard. And remember, don't whistle at night.
Hello, everybody. Hello. Welcome, Yat. Hello. Welcome to Don't Whistle at Night. We're broadcasting live here on the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans. I'm your host, Don Yazzie, and with me, as usual, as always, Darren Yazzie. He'll get here when he gets here. Be safe out there, Darren, if you can hear me. So, today is a pre-recorded episode. So with our usual viewers out there, we like to say thank you for tuning in on our usual hours. But today is a very special episode. We have to do pre-recorded because this next guest I've known for probably like over a year now, maybe. But whenever we're on the phone, we can chat for hours on the things that wander around on the Navajo Nation, just like your episode says things that go bump on the Navajo Rez. So she's a paramedic on the Navajo Nation out of the Gallup area. So maybe if you guys want to give her a little hand every now and then. So if you see an EMT paramedic vehicle out there, don't be afraid to give her a hand or say hi or a high five for me. So without further ado, Miss Terri Anderson, paramedic of the Navajo Nation.
Hey Don, how you doing?
Hey, not too bad. How are you?
I'm on a day off, so that's a good thing.
It's always good when it's a day off. Wish we can get paid for days
Absolutely.
off, right?
Oh man, well, yeah, that's kind of the way it works.
Yeah. And first off, I'd like to say thank you for your time and thank you for your service for our reservation over there. Thank
Well, I
you.
appreciate that. I really do. We get
So,
we do a lot of work out here, and been out here about 15 years working up on the res. So
not
been out
only
here a
Navajo
while.
Rez, yeah. Not only Navajo Rez, you worked on the Apache Rez as well, huh?
Yes, I did. I worked there first, and then I've been up here on the Navajo res about 15 years. I worked for a private company in Ganado, which is just west of Winter Rock. But it's we do a little bit of everything out here, and I'm kind of hard to miss. I think I'm the only white-haired Belagana up there, so um, everybody up there kind of knows who I am. Or at least they know. They'll come to me and say, "You did this or you did that," and I'm like, "Okay, I don't remember you, but that's okay." We see a lot of people off and on, and it's like I'm a little harder to miss than they are sometimes. Like I said, I kind of stick out like a sore thumb, but that's fine. I don't mind. I enjoy being out
That's
here.
cool.
A lot of fun.
Awesome. So everyone sees. So if you see a lady or if you see somebody that looks like a Q-tip driving the paramedic, that'd be you most likely, huh? Like, hey, look at there's a Q-tip. Oh no, that's
That's me.
Terry. No, just kidding. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to the family, Miss Terry. Welcome to the family. And most likely
Thank you.
everyone's gonna be begging. Oh yeah, you're welcome. Everyone's gonna be begging for you back. I already know it. And usually when we're done with the guests, they're like, hey, bring him back on. How come you didn't ask this question? How come you didn't let them talk? I'm like, hey man, we interact with live audience and we're gonna get around to it because everyone that comes on has no choice but to come back on. or we'll whistle at night and we'll say, "Hey, it's me, Terry," or "Hey, it's me, Rod. I'm whistling." No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I'm naming past guests, so I haven't come on for part 2 yet. So, anyways, so I'm just rambling on here. Obviously, that it's good to have a
That's
co-host.
okay.
Darren. Darren. He likes to talk a lot. Which is really good. So I'm just sitting back, like moving the topic along. Like, hey, we're going this way. Hey, but
Yeah.
so on that note, Miss Terry, take us into where you're from, who you are, and your earliest memory of any paranormal experiences you have had.
Well, I'm actually started out in Kansas, so I'm not in the land of Oz anymore. But I came out here 20 some plus years ago. Came down to work at the American Indian Christian Mission in Linden, and we had some interesting experiences out there. And usually it was some kind of demonic activity that was trying to hinder what we were doing. But going back to Kansas, I there's all kinds of stuff that happened in Kansas. But as a kid growing up, uh, I happened to see a magazine article that started kind of piquing my interest in a lot of this stuff. Um, it was on a National Wildlife uh, magazine, and in it, the first time I saw a picture of the Bigfoot film that was shot in California, and I was fascinated. I absolutely fascinated. I wasn't very old, but when that came out, and my mom got that subscription, you know how that goes. And so I was looking at it, and then later on, I'd ask a lot of questions, and you get around and you start hearing and seeing things around where you're at, and um, where I was at, actually, there was a lot of, like I said, we were out right in the corner of southeast Kansas. And, I'd talked to some of the Native Americans around that area. There's quite a few tribes down there in northeast Oklahoma, in that area.
Mhm.
And I was kind of fascinated that one of the ladies I talked to, and by this time I was in college, she told me about the Bigfoot that was along an area called Shoal Creek. Now, I'd had my own encounters by then, so I was really fascinated in what she had to say. Um, but she talked about how that he was down there and that they could smell him and they could hear him and stuff. And one place I was working at down there, I was working on a horse ranch, and I had this little young guy that was helping me. We were grooming horses and getting them ready for sales and things like that, and he was in there helping me for about a month or 6 weeks, and we were out there every day. And one day, I don't know where this came from, but he told me, he says, we heard something last night. And he just lived over the hill. This was kind of in the Ozarks. We were down in southwest Missouri at this point. But um he said he just lived over the hill from where we were working. And he said that they'd had a problem at their house, and him and his mother stayed there in a trailer house, and they heard something come crashing through the woods, and it got up, and they were in the house, and it was rocking their trailer. And this little guy was small. I mean, he was young kid, probably 12, maybe a little older. Anyway, but he was telling me about how whatever this was, they could hear it outside, and it was rocking their trailer. And boy, I tell you what, now I was fascinated. I actually had to take him home a couple times, and I looked around. I didn't see anything unusual, but I thought, boy, right there close to where we're working. And
Mm.
that was kind of another little encounter that is like, wow, that is creepy. Another weird thing, of course, I have to tell you this too. I did see a Bigfoot when I was probably in my teens. I was actually driving, so I was old enough to drive, but we were on a family vacation, and my dad and I were in the front seat of a pickup, and mom was sleeping in the camper in the back. And we're coming into Utah. We're actually coming down into towards Brigham City, Ogden, that area. I'm not even sure which highway it was. It's been so long ago. I don't want to tell you how old I am. Anyway, I'm driving.
Mm.
It's daylight still, barely. It's in the evening, and we come over a hill, and we're on a 4-lane highway, 4-lane divided, and this thing steps out of the trees on the right hand side where I'm at, and it looks right at us, and then it proceeds to walk right in front of us. I mean, far enough away I hit the brakes, but it was far enough away I wasn't going to hit it. And it walked across 2 lanes of traffic, down through a median, and then across 2 more lanes of traffic, down an embankment, across a railroad track, and off into the trees. And my dad and I both saw it, and we watched that the whole time. And like I said, it was daylight. We both got a good look at it. There just wasn't a whole lot said, because it's like, you don't expect to see one of those. So that was kind of the early stuff. Another crazy thing that happened back where I was at, we had an area down there called the Spook Light. You still see this on the internet. You look it up, either Hornet Spook Light or Joplin Spook Light, and it'll show you pictures of this thing. It'll kind of surprise you, but my mom grew up in an area just south of there on the Oklahoma side, and she told me that she'd seen this thing since she was a kid. She was growing up down there, and their family had one of the first cars at the time, it was called Ottawa County. And you could go down there, even, you can still do it. I mean, you can still go down there. You don't see it as easily now, but you could go down there any time in the night. Didn't matter, just as soon as it got dark, drive down this road and park, and out of the woods would come this light. And there was nothing around it. It would be in the middle of the road looking at you. It would split into threes, and it would pass. Other people said it passed through their car, or they'd hear it and it'd roll over the top of their car. It might leave burn marks, it might not. And there was a little museum down at the end of the road called Spookies, and you could go in there and get a pop and they had a place you could sit there and look straight down the road and see this thing all the time. You could drive at it, and all of a sudden it'd be behind you, and nobody could ever figure out what it was. They sent Army Corps of Engineers down there to try to figure out what it was. They couldn't do it. There was a TV program, I think it was That's Incredible, or it was something unusual like that. They went down there. When they went down the road to try to film this thing, their cameras would go dead, and they'd take them back to Joplin where they were staying, and they would be working fine. They tried that 2 or 3 times, and they got a little bit of footage, but they couldn't get much. The thing's still there. And that was one of, I mean, even as a kid, we all went down there on like special occasions. We called them hay rides, where you literally throw hay on the back of a truck, and everybody'd get in and hang out in the back of the truck and drive down there and look at this thing. It was always there. I mean, I always saw it, and even to this day, if I go down there, I can see it. A lot of people don't seem to see it for some reason. I don't know why, but it's there, and nobody ever figured out what it was. Never to this day have they figured out what it was. So, we were introduced to spooky stuff when I was a kid, and I came out here, and it just got spookier. So.
Oh, Darren, are you drinking Smirnoff on the recording? Whoa, great goose.
Looks like he's dozing off. He's sleeping. I already put him to sleep. Yeah.
Darren decided to join the party, guys. Darren decided.
Yeah,
Hey, Darren.
just hello. Oh man.
Oh,
Okay.
My work's calling me.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
all good, man. Oh man, working all the time, huh?
Man, I'll tell you.
So it was in Kansas, Joplin area, huh? Joplin, Missouri, that area.
Yeah.
So
I lived
would you
in the very corner. I lived in the very corner of southeast Kansas. I grew up there, and there's a lot of mines, and there's a little town not too far from me called Galena that they had all kinds of crazy stuff goes on over there. They've even got a house down there that's still, they say it's haunted. It was a brothel at one time. There's a lot of interesting stories about that part of the country. Yeah, I mean, you can even spend the night there if you want, and it's like, okay. But there was some murders in there. That supposedly at the time, this is back a long time ago, there was a woman there that was supposedly like the madam, and she would get these miners coming in, and they'd have a lot of money on them, so she'd take them out and kill them and take their money.
Terry,
And she
we
was
got
like
a
a
little
serial killer.
delay.
Yeah.
Terry,
Yeah.
we got a little delay.
Yeah, it's been doing that
Yeah,
on my side. Yeah, right.
Oh,
Right there.
how about there?
Might want to
What?
check, see if there can be a
She has weak
better
service
reception somewhere.
where she's at. Oh no, she's at a real would you say almost off the grid type of deal on that side of the Rez
Not
by
no.
Gallup. She's from what
Oh,
was that?
Well, I'm kind of yeah. You guys are breaking up real bad, both of you.
Oh.
But yeah, I'm just south of I-40.
Okay. Yeah, I-40 right by the freeway. There we go. Okay. How did she sound now, Dan? She sound okay?
Like I said, I'm still in hearing you all, but
no.
it's kind of. He said where I was seeing the spook light was in Southwest Missouri. Like I said, you can look that up on the internet, and you'll see all kinds of pictures of it there. Where I lived was actually in southeast Kansas, but that whole area wasn't separated by about 10, 15 miles. I mean, we're right in the corner. And part of the time I was in Oklahoma, just all over the place down there. So there was strange stuff going on. There was, like I said, there's a place called Galena, Kansas. Yeah, there's a hotel there, and you can actually stay there. It used to be a brothel, and there was a serial murderer, a lady that was the madam, so to speak, of this place. And as the miners would come back in, they were mining lead and zinc in that area. If she caught one that had a lot of money, she'd murder them and take their money. And supposedly she put a bunch of the gold that she had got from these guys down in a mine shaft somewhere, and it's never been found. It's still there, supposedly, But there's all kinds of creepy stuff that goes on around there. I mean, there's mine shafts, and there's, you've been told there's devil worshippers in the area. There's been murders in the area. And I just, like I said, it's just a strange place. It's not, like off the chart weird, but a lot of strange stuff happens down in there. But it's very rural, still is. The biggest town close to it is Joplin. And if you're not spending your time ducking tornadoes, you're out there looking at the spook light or doing something like that. So
this spook light, I know there's a couple of areas in America where this happens. Is this the one by the train track or?
No. This one's out in the middle of nowhere. And yeah, I've heard that too, I've heard of 3, I think, but I took some friends of mine down there one year, and they didn't believe me. And it's like, okay, and they weren't from that area. I said, okay, all right, so let's go down there. And I hardly ever went down there without carrying a gun. It just was not a safe place. I mean, it was okay, but you never knew what was lurking around beside you or in the other cars or whatever. But anyway, we went down there, and this one guy, he goes walking away from the car, and we'd parked on this hill, and I said, it's right there. And it looked red. And he said, no. And he said, that's a Ford 500 Galaxy 500 taillight. I said, turn your headlights on and take a look. And he turned his headlights on and it disappeared. You always had to sit down there in the dark. I mean, you couldn't turn your lights on or nothing. Anyway, it disappeared. So he gets out of the car and he starts walking towards it. And I kind of walk up behind him a little bit. And I can't explain this other than it was just instinct. We both at the same time swung and turned right at the woods, and the woods were close. I mean, this was a dirt road with fences along both sides, and the trees kind of hung over the middle. It was kind of a creepy place. And we both swung and turned, whatever it was, and we stopped dead still. And I had my hand on my gun. I was ready to do something. Anyway, you could hear something walking in the woods beside us. Never did see it, but that area down there was Quapaw Indian land. And everybody that I had a lot of friends down there that were Native, and this one person told me, he said, oh, that was the deer woman. I said, wait a minute, what's a deer woman? And he said, so he explained it to me. He said, a lot of times, and there's a powwow grounds not too far from there. It's a really neat place. And he said at night, the women would come up and they'd be dancing with the guys, and then they'd entice them off into the woods and kill them. And he said the only way you can know that it was a deer woman was by looking at her feet while you're dancing. He said most of the time they didn't do that. They just danced, But the only way you could tell, she'd be a beautiful woman and be dancing and all this, and they would never know that's what that was unless they looked at her feet. And she was evil. And you're like, oh, okay. And then there's, the story that there was a pair of lovers that jumped off of a cliff over there because they couldn't be together. And The woman died. They both died, but supposedly the light was one of the guy looking for the girl because she died and he couldn't find her. And that's what that was supposed to be. The only other thing I know about that area, there was an area there that I never knew exactly where it was, but I was told it was in that area. That's where they would take a lot of the young guys and teach them some of the more sacred songs of the drum, and that was a pretty sacred area to a lot of the people down there. And they said there was just stuff going on. There's spirits down in there. All I know is it's been there. I've even looked at it with a telescope, no less. I had a telescope in the back of a truck looking at it, and you can't tell what it is. They look like lights, except they split. There'll be one on top of the other, or they'll be at a diagonal. One will be yellow, one will be red, one will be green. You don't have a clue, and they move and they switch. But it scares a lot of people when they go down there because they don't know what it is. But that's what I grew up around, was stuff like that all the time.
Wow, sounds pretty interesting.
It's a really cool place if you ever get to go down there, and it moved. I lived on the road, the Hornet Road, which was about a 3/4 to a mile north of the Spooklight Road, and it went down and it hit the state line and it split. There was a T intersection there. You go left and you go to Spooky's Road. You go right another 3/4 to a mile or so, and they called it Case Meat Market Road. There was a butcher shop down there. Now this was all very, very rural. Okay. Some nights you could see it on the road to the north. Sometimes you could see it on the road to the south. You could always see it on Spooky's Road. But you could actually go from one road to the other and still see it. And you're like, now how does that happen? They're about 2 miles apart, but yet you can still see it. And then I started seeing it on the road I lived on, which split those two roads between. And the only reason I can tell you that is it has a particular hue to it. It's kind of a off-white yellowish color, but it just looks different than a white light. And I'm driving home one night and I see that and I thought, that's not possible. So I went ahead and drove down there, and sure enough, there it was. It was looking the same as what I saw it on the road I lived on, which was in between the two roads. And it's like, I don't know. It moves around and you never know where it's going to be exactly, but it was, like I said, it's still there. It's just there's a lot more houses in there now, and it's hard for people to get as good a look at it as they used to. But it's there. Crazy place.
That's very cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, has anybody ever just, attempted to be on one side and then another person on one end to see if they can see how far this light is, or?
They can't see it from the backside. That's what's weird. If you're over in the Oklahoma side looking back to the east, it's real hilly down in there, so you have a tendency to see it in the gullies below you. And that's why it was, but you could, we chased it one night for fun to see if we could chase it. And we drove, I don't know how many miles down that road, and it winds up dead ending right on the interstate. It's I-44 back there. And, you're like, if you don't stop, you go right off a hill right down into the interstate. And we chased it as far as we could, and it was looking big and red like it was mad. And we're like, okay, why did it do that? And then we turned around and came back. But most of the time is if you're going east to west, you see it the best. You can see it coming west to east, but it's a little bit harder to get a look at. Usually it's from east to west, and you see it best that way. I know I can't explain that either. I'm just telling you it's there. So,
wow.
I don't know.
Other than it rhymes, the food is always best over there back east. Where the east you go, food gets better.
There you go.
Wow.
Aaron, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I'm just surprised. You hear stories like these, and then you hear stories of like yours, like you're actually chasing after it. Most people tend to run from the unknown like this. So kudos, you're a different breed to chase down these.
Navajo Nation.
Yeah,
Belong on the Navajo Nation.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. It never did scare me so much as I was fascinated by it. And of course, Stuff out here sometimes I kind of shake my head at, but so far I haven't had anything scare me so bad I'd run away. But I always think about it once in a while. But I hate to say this, but if I'm working, I don't necessarily have a firearm, but usually any place else I do. I'm almost always got a gun on me somewhere. I used to be a cop, so I mean, it's like it's second nature to run at things. And even as I've been a firefighter and I'm doing this paramedic thing, I've done all these crazy things, and none of them tell you to run away from stuff. You're always running at it. It's just,
right.
I guess it's my nature.
Wow, that's just amazing. Like you said, most people are natural born to run from run away, but you're the one running towards, the one running into a burning fire, so
I guess I was just born that way.
Oh yeah,
nice. That's nice.
We gotta take you out to when we go out Sasquatching on the reservation again. Like, hey,
well, like, let's go.
I think Terry won't run. She has a hand cannon.
well, not only that, but I'm old, fat, and slow. So I mean, you're gonna outrun me. So I better be able to turn and fight.
Yeah.
So
Terry's been a part of the team over with William Jevening, and she has some 3 good pictures of Sasquatch out in that side of the Navajo Nation, which we'll get into. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves here, but hey, go ahead and lead us into your next story.
Which one? What do you want to know about?
Your Kentucky or Kansas. Other than the that little spirit in the gullies and the hills, I've been there. Ozark. I've been into that forest. It's really thick in there. Really thick. I hate the mosquitoes.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's real thick. I realize I'm losing my light, guys. It's a way thicker forest than it is out here by far. I mean, we'd go out and go hunting, and you could lose things and each other in those woods back there. Of course, it's getting more populated all the time, but there's all kinds of stuff. There's lakes and rivers, and there's talk of Bigfoot and all kinds of stuff down in the Ozarks, down in the mountains. There's a old Civil War battlefield called Pea Ridge, Arkansas, and you go out there, and people, of course, it's getting built up around it too, but people would see stuff down there off this old battlefield. There were some ugly battles down there, and they'd see ghosts and all kinds of stuff down in there. I didn't, but I never had the opportunity to be down there at night. But I think they had a couple they would even see in the daytime. But that whole area was involved in Civil War stuff. One place that I was living, this was in the corner of Southwest Missouri. I had a little rental house there, and these people was one of the guys I worked with him and his family. They were right there too. They had a boarding kennel for animals and stuff. Well, they had a horse, and they needed somebody to go out and exercise this horse. So I'd go out and ride it, mess around and carry on. The weird thing about it is I'd ride this horse down in this one area, and it was real overgrown and it was just weird, and you get down there and you feel creepy. And I never could figure out why. So I came up one time, and I go by the end of the barn, and this horse did everything it could to stay away from that barn. And usually a horse is more than happy to go to the barn, right? This one didn't want to go in that barn for nothing. And finally I said something to this guy. I said, "What is going on with this barn?" I said, "This horse will practically throw you off just to get away from that barn door." And he said, "Go in there and look." And I went walking back there, and there was an old tombstone back there. And I said, "What's this?" He said, "We've moved that tombstone I don't know how many times, and it keeps coming back." And he said, "None of us have touched it, and it keeps showing back up in that barn." And I said, "Now, come on, somebody's playing a joke on you." He said, "No." He said, "Nobody has touched that tombstone, and it keeps coming back." I'm like, "Okay, all right, that's weird." So then I asked him about this area down below, what was going on down there. I said, "There's something weird down there. I always feel like somebody's watching me when I'm down there." He said he did too. And he said he'd go down there and try to cut some trees or something. And he'd stop the chainsaw and look around because he thought he had somebody watching him. Finally, he did some digging and found out that was the site of an old Civil War hospital. and there was a lot of guys that had died down in there in that old Civil War hospital during the battles and stuff. And I said, well, now isn't that special? Because I didn't know that, and I'm out there stomping around, just feeling like, I mean, your skin just creeps and crawls, and you're like, what the heck? And he said he'd had that problem too, that he'd be down there and he was cutting wood, and he'd stop the chainsaw, he'd look around, nobody's there, he'd start it back up, and they'd get that creepy feeling. And he did that several times. Finally, he gave up and left because that was right down there in that bottom. And you're like, okay. And there were several Civil War battles around there. And there was, you probably, I don't know if you ever heard of Quantrill's Raiders. They were in the area on the southeast Kansas side. They ran through there up through Carthage, Missouri. There were some battles there, running battles, and it all had to do with, the division of North and South back in there. There was always something weird around. If you just kind of sit and listen a little bit, you'd get some creepy vibes from being down in there. And you might not know what it is until somebody finally fesses up and tells you what it is. So
sounds like the land is really tainted, huh? It's always usually the case.
Oh yeah, well, and there's caves down in there. There's some really interesting caves down in an area called Bella Vista that they have found a lot of Native American artifacts, and these are old. When they were going through there with the highway, they were, diving or digging the highway and blasting through there. They opened up a cave down in there on the Arkansas side, and they found a lot of interesting things back in there. There's several places like that along the Arkansas, southwest Missouri, southeast Kansas, northwest Arkansas. It's all there's been some old occupation back in there, and that one in particular, it's become kind of a famous little area from the cave that's down in there. And I know you all have heard of Silver Dollar City. There's a big cave down in there, but that place is just full of caves. I mean, if you just know where to look around, there's caves all over that place. So, and if it's not that, there's mine shafts. Take your pick. So,
well, Kansas is, what do they call it? The Diamond State, I think.
No, that's Arkansas. Well, they have that diamond place in Arkansas where you can go down and dig in the dirt and find diamonds, and people do that. I've not been to that one, but Missouri is, of course, the Show Me State, and Oklahoma is the Sooners, and it's just different environments. You go there's some really interesting areas down in there. If you just go driving around, look, you find all kinds of things to look at. The lakes, Table Rock Lake is a beautiful place, huge, but yet you wouldn't be surprised. But there's where is that? There's a spring down there. It's not Eureka Springs. There's another spring down there, and it flows all the time. And when they had a earthquake in Alaska, it caused the water on that in that spring in Arkansas to foam up and turn gray from the silt, and it was from the earthquake in Alaska. And you're like, how does that happen? It's all underground water. So there's a lot of water flow, caverns. I mean, the water is ridiculous down there. I mean, I'm out here, I've got water standing everywhere right now because of all the rain, but that's the most water I've seen compared to what, back home. This is amazing. I've got mud puddles back home. You can go down to the corner and go swimming in the creek, just the way it is. So it's a lot different environment down there. So
yeah, out of New Mexico, there's not a whole bunch of surfers. So
yeah,
but yeah, it does show it has its moments every once in a while. Like where I live, there's trees, but there's not too many lakes. But there's a lot of frogs when it rains.
Oh yeah,
and
I'm waiting.
I asked my grandmother, it's like, where do all these frogs come from? And what she told me was, when she was a little girl, it rained frogs, and that's how all the frogs came. So I was like, well, yeah, maybe. So yeah, it's a lovely sound though, hearing those frogs. Yeah,
I've been waiting to go out tonight because, like I said, I've got an area here. It looks like a puddle. It looks like a small pond, and it's about ankle deep. Well, maybe a little bit more right now. And that's what happens here when it rains like that. The frogs all come out and they sit around and talk to each other, and that to me it's fun. I'll sit on the porch and listen to them because they're kind
Right.
of cool.
Yep.
Doesn't take
It's
much to
really
amuse me
fun.
sometimes.
So Miss Terri, lead us into your next story after the.
Okay. Well, let's take it up here on the res, and we'll tell you about some of the crazy things we run into out here. Um, not that long ago, it's been, I can't really pinpoint the time. It's been a couple years now, but my partner and I were headed towards Window Rock. We were in Ganado. We were headed toward Window Rock, and we were going to go pick up a flight crew and bring him back. And the patient was, it was a little more critical, so I couldn't take it. So we had to have a specialized crew. Anyway, we're driving east we're east of Kinlichee, and it's nighttime. And I see something go across the road, and I was watching it, but I'm looking at trying to decide what it was, if it was a dog, if it was a coyote or a wolf. We were just far enough away I couldn't get a real good look at it, but as we got closer, it looked see-through. And I'm looking at this, and it looked like a big wolf. It was big and fuzzy, but I'm looking at it's like you can see through it. And as we got right up to where it went off of the road into the ditch, my partner, we hadn't talked about any of this. He just reached over and he flipped on the side light and was looking in the ditch to see what it was too. And I said, "You saw that too?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I said, "Did it look weird to you?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "It looked kind of see-through." And I said, "That's what I thought. It looked see-through." And we both saw it. And it was like, and we come back, we were looking for it again. We never saw it again. But whatever that was went across the road in front of us in the night. There were no cars coming at us or anything. And it was see-through. I swear it was, you could see, it was whitish, but you could see right through it. And he didn't have an explanation for it either. And he's a native guy. And we both just kind of shook our heads because like, that was weird. So that was just one. And then I had a guy that I was taking his daughter to Gallup. I was riding in the back with him, and she was really sick. She was a little girl. She was sick, and we were taking her over to another hospital, and the other guy was driving. And anyway, this guy's sitting on the back seat. He's sitting there, and he's tired. He's been taking care of that poor little girl, and he's been up, and he's tired, and he's kind of dozing off. He's leaning on stuff, and he's just trying to stay awake. And out of the blue, without anything being said. I mean, I hadn't said anything to him. I was just going to let him sleep. She was sleeping. He was trying to sleep. They needed their rest. I was awake. I was watching the monitors and watching the little girl. Anyway, he just kind of looked up and he says, "Do you know what a centaur is?" And I kind of did a double take. I said, "Yeah, I know what that is." And I kind of looked at it. And like I said, I didn't ask him a question. I didn't do anything. He just starts telling me this. He said, "Have you ever seen one?" I said, "No." I said, "Have you?" He said he hadn't, but I think it was his auntie or maybe his mother. I said, "Where did this happen?" And he said, "Over there where I live." And this was, he lived out on 191 north, quite a ways actually. And I'm sorry, 191 south. And he said that she had gone out to the outhouse one night and her dogs were just having a fit. And she got out there close and the dogs kind of shut up and she looked up and there were 3 of these centaurs that were playing with her dogs, petting them. And she said they looked like kids, at least on the human part of it, looked like kids and a horse on the body. And she's standing there, all dumbfounded and looked up and somebody said something or whistled and looked up and there were several adult ones right there too. And they took off. Once they saw her and realized what was going on, they all took off. But she swears there was about 10 of them. And 3 of them were kids. And they were playing with their dogs. Yeah.
So he said it whistled at them? Like it whistled to
one of them,
little one's attention?
Yeah, they whistled or made some noise to get the young one's attention, and then they took off because they didn't want her seeing them actually. And they were the kiddie ones were over there playing with the dogs. So it freaked the woman out. So then later on, like a day or two later, maybe even a week later, but not much longer than that, I'm taking another patient to Fort Defiance, and this lady, she starts singing. She's got her grandmother in there, and she's singing songs to her grandmother in Navajo. And I start talking to her a little bit, and I said, just out of curiosity, I said, have you ever heard of a centaur being out here? She said, oh yeah. She said, my brother saw one. And there was 2 or 3 people in a car with him. I said, where? She said, at that, right here at this intersection. And we were right there in St. Michael's at that intersection that goes on Route 12 south. Right there. She said, it was right here. She said, they pulled up and there were 3 of them in the car, and one of them ran across the road in front of them right there. And I asked her a few more questions, and it was pretty obvious she was telling me the truth. I mean, you get work around people enough, you kind of get a feel when people are pulling your leg and when they're not. And you could tell she was telling the truth. So was this guy. There was no doubt. I mean, there was no reason for him to tell me that story out of the blue. I hadn't asked any questions, nothing. Now, the lady, I asked a question, and she started telling me about that. And it was one of those things where, you get a feeling for certain people, and sometimes you ask questions. I've asked people different. Some will tell me they aren't going to tell me anything, and that's fine. I understand that. But she was very forthcoming, and so was he. I didn't ask him a lot of questions. He was telling me. She was actually telling me that her brother saw these. And, I never have been able to get a hold of the lady, any of the actual eyewitnesses, but these people were relating what their family members saw. And I'm like, okay. So another strange one. We had a guy, one of the other. I'm sorry.
1 second. 1 second.
Okay.
So this was St. Michael's, and that other lady was from what was the other area again?
I'm not real sure about that one. I think it was down 191 South, but it was somewhere between like south of Ganado and towards Window Rock, somewhere out in there. I didn't get an exact location because I was dumbfounded. I was surprised by all this being. I'm like, okay, why is he telling me this? But I had no idea. I'm just like, oh, alrighty then. But I was surprised that he told me what I knew what his name was because it was the same last name as mine, and I was like, okay, but he didn't tell me what his mother or mother-in-law, whoever this other lady was, she was a family member, but he didn't tell me her name at the time. I forgot to ask, honestly. Like I said, I was kind of dumbfounded, and it was like midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning too. So, and we weren't that far from Gallup by the time he started telling me this story. So, but I was surprised, very surprised.
Yeah, the over in Mima Valley, from that area, we always brushed it off as a skinwalker. We always like, hey, that's the whole time.
Well, yeah,
we didn't know that there's actually cryptid centaur roaming around. So I asked the old school Navajo guy. He's a cryptid. I'm trying to get him on here too. Cryptid investigator he is. He said that those centaurs run from sacred mountain to sacred mountain all night. In the daytime, they hide.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so
I can believe that. Well,
is cool.
Yeah. These creatures, I think they're starting to pop up a bit more. Even I had someone came up to me and told me that they actually seen one of these beings picking surprisingly green chili. Believe it or not.
Really?
In the bag. Yeah. So it's really odd. It's really weird, but these things do have a family system going on, and they do have a social system going on. Them, playing with little puppies. Even the kids just being kids. So, that's nice. That's nice to know too that these things have a family system going on. And surprisingly, I guess they like green chili, believe it or not. But
over in Phoenix and Maricopa, they gave them the nickname Hoofy.
Hoofy, yeah.
yeah, Hoofy.
Hoofy, that's... Well,
Miami Valley, he has like white face paint, and I heard in Chinle they use yellow face paint. And their hair
really?
Thick. Yeah, their hair is like really thick and dark, and their skin is really dark, like like you. What our Apache buddy said that they look like you left somebody outside all day. Really
No.
dark. Yep, and then
Yeah.
their eyes is really really dark, and it's big too. It's big and black eyes. Yep, and their hair is really really well kept, supposedly.
Wow. Well, and there's others. Well, we had a police officer that lives down by cornfields. He said that he and his son both had seen a half man, half goat, like
Oh,
a satyr. Yeah, a
Mhm.
satyr
yeah.
outside the edge of cornfields.
I don't like that guy.
Wow.
That one's disturbing. That
What?
guy's a disturbing one. Oh, he's a disturbing character of the Goat Man. He's
Yeah.
probably one of the more creepy ones I ever ran into. At night.
Mm-hmm.
And our buddy, he's Blackfeet over at Lodge Tales. They say that the Goat Man is brought over by or from the gambling and alcohol. So
Oh, really?
you're saying it's more like a spirit, yeah. And then my Apache buddy Avery Tafoya, he believes the same thing. He said it could be a spirit, but he actually tracked it too and seen their tracks as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's a really interesting character.
Yeah.
He's in the Bible.
Well,
He's in the Bible.
yeah.
Even Sasquatch is in the Bible, and even the Centaurs in the Bible too. You'd be
Yep.
amazed at the
Yeah.
things you see in the
Yeah.
Bible. But
A whole bunch of
Aaron, you got a question?
mermaids and stuff like that too. So
Oh yeah,
it's in the
dinosaur
Bible.
too.
Obviously, it has to be right somewhere. So
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, this satyr or whatnot. Yeah, like what you're saying that Ron, he believed that they were brought on by the alcohol spirit that calls them in, and at a certain point, he believes that because they weren't there before, from what he said, from what he was telling. So it's fairly new creature out there, and
Oh.
so
Well, there was another guy that I ran into that he used to be a roadman with the NAC, okay, and he was telling me now he's no longer doing that. He's a Christian man now, and he would tell you that out here, where Lupton is, out here on I-40.
Yeah.
That there's an area, there's a cave in there somewhere. He told us, and he said he could tell you this for a fact because he'd been there. He didn't tell us where the cave was, but he said there's a cave back in there, and he said that's where they're taking people and teaching them how to be skinwalkers. And he told us, and I was there when he was talking about this. He said he had been there, and he said used to it was just like one or two people that would do that and learn how to do that. He said not anymore. He said now they're teaching the children how to do that, and he was really angry about it because he said they were teaching them how to do evil things and be skinwalkers, and he said they were teaching a bunch at a time. He said there'd be 10, 15 people in that cave, and a lot of them be children teaching them how to be skinwalkers. And this wasn't that long ago. And like I said, this was supposed to be over here in Lupton, not that far from me. So
wow.
I didn't, he told us about that. And he was having a lot of spiritual trouble at the time. There were people that were coming up to us. There were spirits, skinwalkers, he believed, coming up to the house, trying to put curses on him and stuff, because he knew all this stuff and was telling people, and they didn't like it. And they were doing stuff outside their house, causing some sickness and stuff like that. And so there were several people that went over there and helped pray with the family, and it disappeared after that. They left him alone for a while. I haven't seen him in a while. I bumped into him over Gallup one day and talked to him for a minute. But he's a real nice gentleman. But he could tell you some stuff, because, and I don't know if he would, get it on a podcast or not, because he's pretty wary about what they can do, and he knows because he was there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's just more of the crazy stuff that happens. And there's and where I live out south of the interstate, there's weird stuff that happens kind of. I mean, there was a guy that swore up and down there was a skinwalker out west of me. There's another road over here. And I happened to be over there about something. He had something for sale, and I was talking to him, and he told me that he had an old man come up out there, and he walked up out of nowhere. He said he didn't know who he was, but he was afraid of him. And he was a native guy, and he I can't remember exactly what he was saying. But he said the guy hung around, and he kept trying to get him to leave, and he wouldn't leave. And he was white haired, and he was wrapped up in a blanket, and he didn't. There was no reason he should be there, and he wouldn't tell him who he was or why he was there. And he said finally the guy disappeared, but he said he was scared. He was honestly afraid. He was pretty sure he was a skinwalker. And so there's one around here somewhere close to me, not too far. But I've never had any run-ins with them here. Usually don't, they don't bother me a whole lot. But I have had stuff out here that I don't know what I had. I had something on the north side of my house up around the fence one night when I first moved out here. I literally just moved a trailer house in here and was parked. I was sleeping in it. It was nothing, electricity or nothing. And I had a dog. And that night at 3 o'clock, and it's always the 3 o'clock thing, it woke up. I woke up and I'm listening, and I could tell there was something out there, but whatever it was, it wouldn't cross the fence. I don't know why I can tell you that other than I just knew. But my dog, which barked at everything, wasn't barking. She was whimpering and whining and was in her doghouse. She wouldn't come out. And until it left, she would not come out. And I'm looking at this like, this is nuts. But I knew it was there. But I also knew it would not come across the fence. And it kind of made me smile because it was like, okay, you're not coming across. I get it. But it was there. And it woke me up. Whatever it was, it woke me up. Didn't hear anything. I just knew it was there. And like I said, that's another one that I can't prove other than I just knew it was out there. So, and the dog knew it was out there. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The dog was scared. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Especially when they're scared, like it could be a Hoofy, Sasquatch, or Skinwalker. Those are three things that a dog will whimper or try to get into the house. I've witnessed that and experienced that multiple times. So yeah, I understand.
Oh, I had never seen her act like that. But when I was living down by Sholo and stuff, she was barking at everything. She never did that ever. And then the first night I'm out here, she's freaked out. And I'm like, well, and then I find out later there was a Sasquatch. There has been one in this area too, kind of off to the northwest of me. There was one that was seen running across the interstate in broad daylight. And so they've come through here a time or two, but I have never had any trouble. After that, I've never had any problems again. That one night, it was like something wanted to know what was going on. It was something new. They wanted to see what it was. And that night after that, they never came back that I'm aware of. I've never noticed anything else. And I've got several dogs out here now that would, anything, there's coyotes, whatever, they will, go check it out. But I've not had anything like that happen since that first night. So, and then my neighbor swears up and down he had one on the roof of his house. He's about a mile away from it. And he says he's had one crawling around on the roof of his house too. And these are all Belladonna, which it's kind of unusual for us to even notice they're out here. But there's something that's come out here a time or two, either a Skinwalker or a Bigfoot, something. Yeah,
I think
if it was a human, yeah. If it was a human, the dogs would have acted like that.
Yeah. I think they do some kind of rituals and lands, especially off land. So not only the Navajo Skinwalker does that, the other tribal people that practice their own Skinwalkers, they do the same thing too. So I remember growing up, my grandpa would hear coyotes. He said, "That's a coyote. That's a coyote." And once in a great moon, only one time I heard him say, "Hey, that's not a coyote." He tell me that's that tribe over the hill. He's like, that's saying that they're saying they want this land back and they're placing a curse on us. And he's like, tomorrow we gotta go find what they buried on the ground here. So I'm like, really? I'm like, that's crazy. I never heard you say that before. As a child, I was just thinking that oh man, I'm staying inside. Coyote or not, I'm staying inside my grandpa.
Well, and
I think this. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, there's supposedly. Oh. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay, I was gonna say, I like to remind everyone to like, subscribe, and share. And if you're listening over the airways, come and find us on YouTube.
Yes,
Yeah, there you
Yeah,
go.
don't forget
yes,
to like, share, and subscribe. Go ahead,
yes,
Darren.
for sure. On the YouTube, we do show photos. So, you want to see what it actually looks like without a brief description? Come and see us on YouTube, and we'll show you some photos. Obviously, we got some tonight too of Bigfoot. Am I right?
Oh
Well,
yeah,
I can tell you
we'll cross
real
that
quick
bridge.
about,
Go
huh?
ahead. Oh no,
Well, I
I
was
was
going to
gonna
tell
say
them real
we're gonna
quick.
cross that bridge when we get to. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh well, I was going to tell them what those photos were real quick in case they see this and they want to look. The one you're going to see is kind of golden color, and that's a small one. The guy that took that picture said it was about 3.5 feet tall. It was like a kid, and it was playing, and it's got a board in one hand, and I think it was playing with the second one because some other people saw two of them together down in the valley from where this guy lived. Then there's one that it's on the side of a. Oh, okay, yeah, that one. That one, he said was a kid that was playing. And there was an old building there that had fallen down, and it was picking up boards and playing with them. And it went into the bush, and like I said, it scared the snot out of him because he didn't expect it. And it was early in the morning. But people down valley saw a second one playing with that one.
All right, that
So
for whatever
then,
reason, this one gave me chills. It kind of just, yeah, it's obviously a beast of some kind. You can see the top of the head, and you can actually see the sun reflecting off the hair.
And
well, look
that's
at
a buckskin
look at
color.
the look at the muscles in the back. That's his back.
Yeah,
He
right?
saw it. Look, he saw it looking at him, so he knew what it was. He said it was a Bigfoot. There was no doubt about it. But that was just the only picture he was able to get before it disappeared. So, and that was over. That was in an area called Navajo Station Road, and there's been several sightings down in that valley and down that road, and that goes on over. In fact, the other one that you're going to see, there's a black one up against a bluff, and that was, if you take that Navajo Station Road and just extend it out towards Steamboat, that's kind of in the area where that other one is. And the lady saw that one there. She was up on a hill. She was herding sheep, and she saw this in the distance, and she took some pictures. Of course, this is daylight. She took pictures, and it was a pretty much extreme zoom, but that's what she got. And this lady's reputable. It's not like she just made this up or anything, or the other one either. But people say, oh, it was somebody riding on a rock. Well, he was climbing the side of a bluff, and she showed it to a medicine man, and he said he thought it was a skinwalker, but usually they don't run around in the daytime. But anyway, she saw that one while she was out herding sheep, and that would have been west of the first. Now, this was separated by several years. I mean, it's not like there was 1 year and the next year right then. They were separated by time. And so this one was in broad daylight out west of where the other one was. The other one you have, it shows.
Wait, 1 second. 1 second.
Okay.
We'll get to that bridge when we cross there. Darren, hold your horses. We're going in chronological order. Okay, guys. So we're looking at a Sasquatch going up the bluff here. He's trying to find a way up, or she. You don't know. It's a dark one.
Yeah.
And we're looking at a buckskin color Sasquatch here, and you said that it is carrying these sticks and it was playing, right?
Yeah, it's got a board in its hand, the one that swung back there. It's got a board from that shack that had fallen down across the road. And he described it sounded like it was playing, that there was probably another one in the bush. And then later on, a few days later, other people had seen it too. And it said there was two of them, like a pair of twins. That he didn't see the adult, but he saw the two. And he went back up in there a few days later, and there was a nest up in there. And he found that. But yeah, and it was in those bushes and stuff alongside the road.
Didn't you say that the witness also described saying that it was speaking Navajo too? It sounded like an old man raspy voice.
Not that one. I've had other people, like I said, after I started hearing about these and seeing these pictures, I've talked to people, I see people all the time. And once in a while, if there's an opportunity, if something comes up, I ask them. And this one lady had said that she had, he was down in one of the chapter meetings, and they started talking about this because this had made Facebook. And he said that the one guy said he saw the two. Another lady said that a lot of the elders will put out food or chunks of mutton and whatever to feed them. And another older lady said that one of them would speak. She'd hear it talking, and it sounded like it was talking in Navajo. And she talked to it. Now, that was over closer to Steamboat, from what I understand. But, you know, this is all, you get a run. I've had another lady tell me she saw one down there along Route 15, just west of where this one was spotted, a different year. But she and the family saw it. They were driving down the road, and it was cutting across that wash right down there at the bottom by Route 15 and going west. So I'm getting the impression that they kind of run along that area and then west towards Steamboat, because I've had other people mention that they've seen them over towards Steamboat. Another guy that I work with that was driving that road headed out to Kayenta, I think, or he was headed up to Tuba. Anyway, he had one that he spotted in the middle. It was like early in the morning along the edge of the road, and scared him half senseless. And he saw something, and he thought it was a llama, and then he realized it wasn't. It was standing up on 2 feet. So there, you know, we're talking about running west that way. It looks like they kind of run to the west, and then others seem to go the other direction. The one that is on the side of the bluff, that was out west of this one, and then there's one that was spotted in Ganado in daylight. The guy that I work with. And it scared the snot out of him, too. And he saw that. It was standing on top of the G Hill. And then that one, you can see it up there by the tree. Now, he went up and stood by the tree. And this guy is 6'1" or 2", and it was way taller than him. And he saw that, and he came back to the quarters. He takes a walk every day, and he saw that, and he came back. And I could tell there's something wrong, but he didn't say anything. And then later on, when his wife got off work, she went down and stood where he was at, and he went up on that hill and took the picture next to that tree. Now, the tree is dead. It's gone. It fell over. But recently, yeah, the tree's gone. But the whatever, they saw that. They think it was the same one. There were tracks off to the north of there. There's a little wash down there that's always got water in it. And they saw tracks down in there. And then later they saw they had some sightings in Noslini, which is further up north. Just recently, you may have seen this, when the guy was recording those sounds, and where he was pointed was right across the street from our quarters, and they were looking right at the G Hill. That's where the sounds were coming from at night. And you could tell it was not a cow, it was not a coyote, it was nothing. Even they were pretty sure it was a Bigfoot. Okay, now this one was fairly recent, and he was pointed right at that same direction. Well, then one of the guys at the hospital, he heard him too. One of the nurses, a Belagana, he heard it. And a lot of them went down by the wash and started looking around, but they didn't find anything. And then the most recent one was the guy I'm working with now. His wife was a police officer, and they probably remain nameless, but they were up northeast of Kinlichee, out into the way up. They were doing a thing. They had a medicine man with them that was a family member, and they were telling some of the kids, they were camping out in this an old hogan up in there, and it was a family plot way up their family area. Anyway, they had the kids around them, and they were telling stories, and this medicine man was telling them, he was telling the kids be quiet and listen, and you can actually hear it in, I think I sent that to you, Donovan. You can actually hear in the background a scream. And you can tell that this is also not a human. And they all stopped. I mean, everybody stops dead still. And the kids all got scared and went back in the house. But you can hear it screaming again. And it was in a wash down below them. And it would have been in a direct line with the G Hill off towards Kinlichee, which we'd had another sighting. And then this would have been northeast of there. So they're there listening to this. And the medicine man they had a gun with him, and he said, fire a shot. And they did, and it screamed, and you could tell it was getting closer. And he told her to do it another one, and they did, and then they never heard anything else about him that night. It shut up. They all went inside. They were going to be camping outside. They all went inside the building that night, I think. But that was a recent one. That's been within the last couple of months, because I sent that to Donovan so he could hear it, because it was pretty freaky. And these are legitimate people. Like I said, I know her well. I've worked with her a long time ago, and then she's a police officer now, and she's legit. And they're the ones that recorded that, and they were there listening to it. So, and her husband gave it to me. But, these are legitimate sightings they're seeing around Ganado, on, every other yearly basis. But all that would have been almost in the direct line with Narbona Pass, where you guys had told me you found the horse carcasses that have been chewed up. So, we're talking a couple of places where they look like they're running to the west and then to the northeast. And it's not just one time, but you see a couple sightings like that. And then, of course, the creepy one, I haven't told you. I don't know if I've sent you this picture or not, but I had one of the guys that I work with, he gave me this picture, and he goes, "Look at this. What do you think of this picture?" And I'm like, what is that? And he said, this guy that he'd had to go out and on a call, and the guy gave it to him. And this guy, he was a medicine man, or was a budding medicine man. Anyway, he drew this picture of this big hairy thing with red eyes, and he said he kept seeing it behind his house. And to look at it, it looks like a Bigfoot with either has no neck, or he's, eyeballs are down on his shoulders. Take your pick. But the weird thing is, the guy told him there was something wrong, and he thought he was gonna die. And about a week later, they found him dead in a bar ditch, and his head was off. And it was close by, but they were all saying, "Oh, the dogs did that." I'm like, "No, dogs don't do that. Dogs will go for your guts. They won't go for your neck." I don't know what they found his head, but the creepy thing is, this guy was head medicine man. He was a medicine man. His girlfriend wanted all his medicine man stuff, and I knew that was a no-go. The family absolutely said no way, that she was not supposed to touch him. But everybody to this day thinks that she had something to do with him dying, so she could be a skinwalker. But he had the picture. He had drawn the picture himself, and said he was seeing this out behind his house. And I don't know what. And this was out in an area that wasn't as remote as some of these others. It was out west of Ganado, not that far. And he wound up dead about a week or two later. So don't know what that one was all about. But it looked like, it was pretty creepy. And Donovan, did I send you that picture?
Yeah, I'm trying to find it right now. I'm gonna send it to my email, and then we're gonna download it on here. I'm sending that scream as well. Let me see if we can play it for the listeners right now. That'd be cool.
That scream is pretty cool.
Oh, okay, I found it right here. Yeah, I like it. Okay, 1 second. And before you mentioned you lived in Sal's, Arizona, and you worked on Apache Rez, and you had a few scary stories from there on your time there. Could you share that with us?
Okay, I was up on the White Mountain Apache, not Sal's. I was at Cholo, and I would drive down. Yeah, I would drive down to the White Mountain Apache down there, and there, I got to know quite a few of the police officers and stuff down there. I mean, we were all, it's like in the EMS and fire and police, they all run in the same circles, or we bump into each other all the time. Well, there was one lady that got sent to a call in north of White River proper, and they said they had a prowler, and she goes barreling out there, and this is at night. And she pulls into the yard. She's going to catch this guy, and she comes face to face with a Bigfoot. She sees it in her headlights. It scared her so bad, she never went back. She swore up and down she would never work night shift again. Anyway, it left, and it went through the fence and went down to an area below. I'm trying to think of the name of the area now. It just kind of left me. It's down by the fish hatchery, and she was able to they would get these hair samples, and it was a reddish brown one, kind of almost like the color of that young juvenile, but it was a little darker red. But she saw that one and brought it right in her headlights. I mean, she didn't hit it, but it scared her so bad she swore up and down she would never ever work night shift again. In fact, I'm not even sure she ever went back to work after that. But we were all the time seeing. This one guy told me, he says, the elders used to tell him not to go down in this area down around the fish hatchery at night, and they'd ask him why, and they said, well, the boogeyman will get you. That's all they would say. Well, finally he finally told me, he says, this is what they meant by the boogeyman. He said, they didn't tell us until this happened, but that's the boogeyman. And so the elders have known. And the thing is, the Apaches are real protective about those kind of things. They don't say, in fact, they don't like notoriety either. I mean, they just don't want anybody to stand out. And it's kind of the culture is different. It's definitely different than between the Navajo and the Apache, but the language is close. But anyway, they wouldn't tell him what it was until that happened. And then and this guy was an adult by then. He said, that's what they meant about the boogeyman. And I was like, okay. So there was always something weird like that. And of course, there's a creek that runs, not just a creek, a pretty good flowing river down through there. And that's where they would hang out back in there. Talk about wild and woolly, and nobody lives back in there. Holy cow. Oh, yeah. I mean, that place it's rugged. One of the creepiest things we did, we went back in there, and there was a guy that had been murdered back there, and he had like 80 some odd stab wounds down there. And he was laying along the edge of the road, and one of the officers had to stay there all night with the crime scene and the body so that they would take pictures in the daylight. And he was just freaking out. He didn't want to be down there by himself, and he was down there by himself, and he was freaked out, so it was just, but that's the kind of place it was. It was creepy. I mean, you didn't want to be down there in the dark. We would go down there occasionally, but it was not one of the places you just wanted to hang out,
Let's go, Darren. Let's go.
He's going to get you in trouble. Yeah.
Actually, I spent the summer or two down there in my youth, and by all means, we literally floated all the way down one end of the river. I think we floated about maybe 5-6 miles. And we're only like 10, 11-year-old kids floating down a river, crawling around in the water right there. And the whole time, we were just kids, and the parents, they knew where we were, but they didn't know what we were doing. So that's kind of discerning, because the White Mountains, there's a lot of trees, and like what you said, when it gets dark down there. And even as kids, we never really thought too much about stuff like this until until you got a bit older and you started hearing stories. Tell me, do you have any ghost stories from there?
From down there?
Wait. She has Oh, one of the ones that I wanted to go back before we move on was you shared a story with me where you said that they would have to clack rocks together 3 times to let them know.
Oh yeah.
Correct. And they spoke Apache as well down there, correct?
I don't know if I ever heard him say about speaking Apache, but that same guy he actually had the newspaper article on his wall. That's how I happened to see it originally. And he worked with this gal too. Anyway, he was saying, he said, when they told him about the boogeyman, he said, anytime you go into the woods, and this is the first I'd heard of this, he said, anytime you go into the woods, you pick up 2 big rocks and you smack them together. You clack them together several times to let them know that you're a friend. And I'm going, okay, I'd never heard that. But he told me that a couple times. He said, you have to go in the woods. And like I said, those woods are woolly and thick. I mean, they'll make anything I had back home just about as bad. There's places you can't even see your hand in front of you. And he said, you always take the rocks, pop them together. And whether that was like them popping their mouth, or whether the Bigfoot picks up rocks. But he said that's the only way you let them know that you're a friend, is you pop the rocks together. And we knew another place right there over by Sibicu. Well, now there's all kinds of creepy stuff that happens around Sibicu. Sibicu is a weird place, okay? But there was a guy from the forestry that was setting out there taking wood cutting permits. And this was daylight again, It was in the evening, and he said he looked up and there was a whole family of Bigfoot that walked across the road right in front of him. A big male, a female, and a couple small ones walked across the road in front of him. Now they didn't want to say what his name was, and I'm not sure I ever knew what his name was, but he was adamant about the fact that he saw these Bigfoot walk across the road in front of him. And there were several reports up around McNary about them, of course, going up towards Sunrise and up by the ski resort and up by Big Lake. I've had people from the Forest Service that were the U.S. Forest Service over in Springerville. I talked to them one night. I had a friend that had camped up there, and their dog got terrified, and they found some scat the next morning. But they said their dog was acting abnormal, and there was something in the woods they could hear. So I asked these guys at the Forest Service one day. I was in there doing something else, and I said, hey, just out of curiosity, I said, have any of you ever heard of a Bigfoot up there? And more, I tell you what, that office got real quiet real fast. No, they just all were looking at each other like, do we say anything or do we not? And now these are all white folks, okay? And the one person finally said, we've all seen one. I said, wait a minute. I said, all of you? And there's somebody that goes from Springerville up to Big Lake every day and stays at the visitor center up there for the campers and stuff like that. And they have to go up early in the morning. And they said everybody that works in that office have seen one going up to Big Lake. Every one of them. And I was kind of surprised. So, we're talking the backside of Mount Baldy, which is Apache land, and then they have, the ski resort and everything up there. And the Big Lake is down below, and it's on U.S. Forest Service. And there's lots of game. I mean, there's tons of game. This thing could eat forever up there. There's all kinds of food up there. Yep. Anyway, all these people had seen it. People were seeing it on the backside of Baldy, and nobody but Apaches can go up on that side because that's a sacred area. And they're in there. There's tons of them in there. There's all kinds of sightings, but not too many of the Apaches will tell you about it because they don't want the notoriety. But every now and then you hear some stories coming out of there, and they're in there. And just like I said, they're up on this res. There's places on the road south of me. There's a canyon down here. It's called Rattlesnake Canyon. And it is really a cool place. I mean, it's got more glyphs of any place I've ever seen in my life. Pictographs. In this one area of the canyon, you can't take enough pictures. There's just tons of these pictographs all over this place. But there's one in there, I swear, to this day is a Bigfoot. It's big, it's got huge hands and feet, and it's a bigger glyph too. And it looks like a Bigfoot. There's nothing else. It doesn't look like the ones you see of bear prints and things like that. This one's different. And I swear that's what this is.
Right?
I don't have a picture of that one. I'm going to have to go back down in there. That's one, if I do have it, it's in an old, believe it or not, I probably do have, but it's probably on an old 35 millimeter. And I don't know where I put those pictures.
Okay.
But if I find it, I'll definitely get you a picture of it. But it sure looks like, that was my first interpretation. When I first saw it, that was the first thing I thought of. And then up on the road above it, that one group will come around, and if there's a sighting, they used to put a yellow Bigfoot print on the road. They'd paint it on. There was one of those right above that area on that canyon. You went out of the canyon to the east and went right up to the road, and there was a Bigfoot print there that somebody had printed. So somebody else had seen the one in there. But it's gone now. It's been paved over. But if I find that one, I'll have to dig through my photographs. God, I don't even know how long ago that's been. But if I find it, I'll definitely send you a picture of it. But that place is just unique.
Yes.
Yeah, it's cool.
While we're on the topic, I got the video sent right here, ready to play whenever you guys are ready. But go ahead, Darren. Didn't mean to cut you off.
Yes, I know that the White Mountain, the whole area right there. I heard UFO stories out there.
Yeah.
And ghost stories, and also one story that was told to me. I'm not really sure how and where to put this creature or whatever they seen chasing cattle, but how it was relayed to me was a group of ranchers, they're gathering up their cattle, and one of the Apache men, he went chasing after one bull or whatnot. And what he said was he came back screaming and yelling, to borderline crying of what he's seen. And another man that told me, he's the one that relayed this to me of what he's seen, because they both seen it. And what he said was it was a white slender, being naked, pale white, and it was running on all fours, and it was chasing one of the bulls. And what he was saying was the arms. You know how like a dog you run, it would run. It looks natural, but what he said to me was its shoulder or its elbows were kind of rolling around when he was running. And so it wasn't how like an animal would run. This one, the elbows are rolling around, and it was chasing this cattle. From what he said, the man that ran off, borderline crying, that he actually lost his mind, and he committed suicide off it. So that's just
Wow.
That's one of the things, the PTSD off these cryptic beings really do have on the human mind. Also, another man who said he looked in the mirror and seen what he said was the devil in an abandoned house.
Yeah.
So, out of that, 3 ghost figures that are always seen. They seem to be teenagers or mid-20s ghosts that are seen hitchhiking on the road from going towards Honda from White Mountains.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one. That one was actually one of my relatives actually told me about that, and he's like, "Yeah, I seen that." yeah, it was it was totally transparent, white, and you can totally tell they were wearing clothes. So
Yeah.
the whole place. It's a really nice place, very beautiful, but it also comes with a bit ominous side to it. So
Yeah, they have some ghost stories that really kind of gives me the chills. One of the ones I heard was a camel wearing a wedding dress around the Apache Housing Authority, because the housing authority is right around the cemetery, built around the cemetery. So
right.
Oh man, yeah, it's really bad.
Yeah.
But anyways, I'll play this a video for our viewers right now. That screaming that you sent me. Okay, you guys ready?
Yep.
All right, here it goes. Hey, don't be messing around with that. Hey, don't you, if you do that, you have nightmares. I'm telling you. See? You're playing around with it, that's why they're coming out. Leave it. Back. Did you guys hear it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
All right. That's cool, huh? It's pretty cool, huh? And before we move on, I got that picture right here. Oh no.
Oh, okay.
No. Sorry. The eyes. It's not
There
showing
it
the
is. There it
eyes.
is.
I'm so sorry. Can you guys see it though on your end?
Yeah, you can definitely see
it's
the chest and the
man.
torso.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like huge, man.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, can you shrink it? Can you shrink it down a little?
No, I can't. But I'll tell you what. I'll post this with the on our website with all these pictures that I'm getting. I'm gonna be posting them so that everyone can take a look at it again. But I don't know if you can see my screen. Hang on 1 second. Here's the original one right here.
There you go.
Oh, it kind of looks like the Mothman.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you see it now? See.
Huh.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now keep in mind, he said that he was seeing this behind a tree. So I don't know what kind. I thought, but it's got arms. Mothman, I don't know, doesn't quite look like that. But I don't know. My first thought was that I thought it was a Bigfoot. My first thought.
Yeah, might be. My first Bigfoot looked like that until he raised up his arms like this. Then he started shaking back and forth, and it was a red-haired one. And yeah, that changed my life. Let's see. Yeah, look at that chest. Oh man, wish we can see the eyes. Maybe next time. Okay, so we're moving on to your ghost stories. But I remember you told me a story where you seen this one kid where he was running on top of these cactuses and he was possessed, something like that.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. We had a call. There was some down in Canyon Day. There were some pipes that went across the canyon, and I'm not sure what the pipes were. They were water or what they were, but they were exposed. And we got a call that some kid was trying to commit suicide. And so we go down there, and it was daylight when we first got down there. And he was up on top of these pipes. And so there was an officer and me that went down into the bottom of the canyon, and we were kind of, I mean, this kid's up there far enough, there's nothing we can do about him, and we sure shit couldn't want to go out on the pipes. The only thing that was saving his bacon is he was intoxicated, which doesn't help. In his case, it was only keeping him up there. Anyway, he kept saying he was going to jump off of there. He was going to jump off. And we go down in the bottom, and I'm sitting there talking to this guy and this officer, and this kid up there, he looks down at us, and he's messing around, and he said he was going to throw himself off the pipes. And I said, no, you don't want to do that. Well, our hope was if we were down there, we might be able to break his fall, because if he jumped off of there, he'd have landed on a bunch of big rocks. He would have died. There was no doubt about it. So all of a sudden, we're sitting there watching this kid, and now this is weird, okay? But his eyes flashed green like an animal's eyes do in a light, okay? It was dark by now, but his eyes they flashed green at us. And I looked at the officer and I said, you saw that, right? He said, I saw that. He said, I don't know what that is. I said, I don't either, because we didn't have a light on him, okay? He was looking down in the dark at us. We had a little light down there, just enough to be seen, but that shouldn't have happened. Human eyes can't do that, okay? And then he laughs real big, and we're like, man, this is crazy. And then all of a sudden he starts speaking in a language that I didn't know. Now, I can't speak Apache, but I can hear enough of it that I know that's what it is, you know? And I turned around to this officer. I said, he's not speaking Apache, is he? And he said, you know Apache? He says, no, that's not Apache. And he said, I don't know what that is. Well, it sounded like Latin. And there's no way this kid, he was a teenager, should have known any Latin whatsoever. Not like this. And they laughed real big. And I thought, okay, this is kind of creepy. So he goes over and he gets down on a different pipe in this. There's a superstructure underneath the big one, and he's walking up and down underneath on this metal bar underneath, and it has these metal struts around that holds up the big pipe. And he's walking around, and he starts walking towards the bank. And I go over there, and I can't touch him. He's not close enough for me to do that, but he's right there where I can see him face to face. I mean, we're close enough that we can see each other's eyeballs, you know. Anyway, we're talking, and he's telling me he's going to do this. But he's talking in the third person. It's not the kid talking. It's something else. And it was pretty obvious what this something else was. And I really think it was a demon, truthfully. Because he said, well, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this to this kid, and I'm going to do this. I said, no, you're not. Well, why not? And I said, because you don't want to kill your host. And he just kind of laughs at me and looks at me funny. I said, you're not going to push that kid off there. I said, I can tell. And then he starts telling me, I've had dealings like this before. I've actually dealt with demonized people. And I knew what was going on by now. I mean, there was no doubt in my mind this kid had a demon. And anyway, the demon was talking, trying to tell me, oh, this is that, and and I said, that's not true. I said, you've got to speak truth. I said, in Jesus' name, you have to speak truth. And finally, he says, I'm going to do this. I said, no, you're not going to kill this kid. So the kid walks to the other end of the pipe, which is on the opposite canyon wall, comes down, and now he's barefoot. He's barefoot. He's bare chested. He's got on a pair of pants, but he don't have any shoes on. And he crawls up, and I'm still talking. I said, let him get shoes on. Let him. Anyway, he climbs up. There's a walkway over on that side, and he cuts across this field, and it is just absolutely full of cactus. I mean, there is more cactus than you can shake a stick at. You can't walk through there without getting stuck with something. And they catch him, finally, the cops catch him on the opposite side of that field. And so we came around, as EMS, we came around there to check on this kid, and he's sitting in the back seat. And I opened the door, I said, "Are you hurt?" And he goes, "No." He said, "Who are you?" I said, "You don't know who I am?" He said, "No." I said, "You've only been talking to me for 2 hours." And he said, "I don't," and you could tell, it was like night and day. There was one time he was talking weird and talking in languages he shouldn't have, and then the next minute he's as sane, as rational as you and I, but he doesn't know what's going on or who we are or nothing. And I'm looking at him, and we talked to him long enough that he had been involved in some kind of a ceremony with his grandfather. He said, "I need to have my grandfather have another ceremony." I said, "No." I said, "That may be exactly what caused this." And they took him to jail because, technically he had wanted to commit suicide, and they had him checked over. He didn't have any cactus in his feet, none in his pants. There is no way he could have gone through that field without, and he was barefoot still, okay? No way he could have done that. And I was at the hospital later when they were checking him, and I asked the doctor, I said, "Can human eyes do this?" Because it didn't happen just once. It happened like twice. He looked down at, both me and the officer saw this. He looked down at us twice, and his eyes flashed like that. And I explained that to this doctor, and they said, "Well, no, you were seeing things." I said, "No, I wasn't." And there were 2 of us that saw it. I said, his eyes flashed green, and there was no light that hit in his eyes. They just flashed at us. And I still can't explain that to this day. I can't, well, I can, but it's definitely a paranormal explanation. But, and I don't remember what happened to the kid. They observed him for a while. He wasn't he was intoxicated initially, but he was fine. When we talked to him, he was as sober as you and I. And to this day, we can't explain how he did that. Well, I can tell you what, I really believe he had a demon. So later on that night, my partner was a native lady, and she comes in and she's gathering up her stuff because there was like 2 women that slept in one room and 2 guys that slept in the other. And she was gathering her stuff up. I said, "What's going on?" She said, "I'm not staying in here with you." I said, "How come?" She said, "The little black things are mad at you." I'm going, wait a minute. What little black things? She said, you don't see them? I said, "No." She said, "They're around here." She said, "They're mad at you." I said, "Why?" She said, "Because you helped that kid." And I'm like, oh. I said, "Well, the little black things can leave. I don't want them around here either. And in the name of Jesus, you guys leave too." And she went in the other room. She wouldn't. She wasn't really afraid of me. She was afraid of whatever was going to come after me, which nothing did. But she'd had some encounters too, and she'd been raised in a church school. So she was more. She could see things I couldn't, and she was all the time seeing things that I couldn't. And it's like, okay, but she was legit, But yeah, you said something about the UFOs. Sibiku is known for the amount of UFO sightings they get over there. Tons over there. We'd hear about it, and we might see a light now and then that looks a little out of place, but we never could. I didn't ever see anything, but I heard all kinds of stories about UFOs being over there. But Sibiku is its own little weird place. Trust me. Right. They were an outcast colony at one time, and that's where they sent all the ones that were doing bad things to the normal tribal people over in White River. They'd send them over there because they were criminals instead of doing anything. That's how they got rid of them. And even to this day, it's like Sibiku's over there, but the people over there there's some dialect language differences over there than over in White River. And I worked over there a few times too, and it's just a difference. The people are completely different in a way. It's because they've grown apart like that, even though they're still Apache and they still observe. They're probably more clannish than the people in White River by far. But yeah, we heard a lot about stories about like that. So
yeah, actually that was the area where the Apache man seen that devil, that demon in the mirror. That's where that happened. That actually. Okay, so yeah, I believe you. There's a lot of I think people just need to really open their eyes to the whole reservation life. There's a lot of stuff that
Oh,
goes on you in the dark out here, and
oh yeah.
the whole podcast right now that we're doing, it's really shedding a light on this subject, and it's getting to the point to like every Sunday, every episode, I'm just leaved with like, wow, like it just another story, that just puts a chill down my spine again. Same thing with this
So
this
my wife
Bigfoot.
keeps on saying, you and Darren, y'all, you guys just keep saying is wow, oh wow.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah,
like, what do you want me to say?
yeah.
It's an amazing
'cause-
story.
Well, a lot of people, yeah, I mean, they hear it from native people and they think, okay, that's just the culture but I'm a white person out here and I'm off res when I'm at home. I'm on res when I'm up there, and I hear and see things and I keep my eyes open. And as a Christian, I'm constantly just kind of trying to stay in tune with what's around me, because, you bump into stuff once in a while and you know that it's not right. And this is different because now they're hearing it from white people too. It's like, folks, you don't understand. There's weird things that happen up there that don't happen anyplace else. Well, I don't know what the reason is. I got my own opinions about that, but the thing is, it's still remote. People are still practicing some of the old traditions and some of the old things. And when I try to tell them there's witchcraft up there, they're like, yeah, all right, sure. You don't understand. There is witchcraft out there, and they have power. They get their power from a bad source, but they have power, and you have to understand. You don't understand the average person, especially you go to big cities and they're like, no, that stuff can't happen. And I said, you've been too close to your science textbooks. You have to realize you have to walk in the spiritual once in a while to realize there's things out here that you don't want to try to explain because you can't. And that you need to realize that not everything is put in a science textbook. There's things out here that are spiritual in nature, and if you don't look at them spiritually, you'll never see them.
Wow. Well spoken.
That's a little bit of the Southwest right there, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Yep.
But that's the fun. That to me is part of the fun. I love living out here. I love going out and seeing all these. I mean, okay, and I realize some of these are old structures like Canyon de Chien, things like those things. Those places fascinate me because it's like, who was here before? What did they see? What did they know? What did they come in contact with back then? Even now, though, I mean, I would love to know more and more about the native culture. Sometimes, like I said, I get snippets here and there, and I get a little piece from this person. It's just time. Over time, I still don't have a complete picture, and I never will. And I don't say I necessarily understand it, but I see things from a different perspective now than I probably did 20 years ago, because I wasn't out here. Even though there was things back home that I was starting to learn about, along with some of the native culture back there, it's different out here. It's still happening today, and most people don't want to come to grips with that. They don't want to realize that, hey, there is things in this culture that you cannot explain. Not only spiritually, physically, sometimes you can't explain it, but you're still living and sometimes you're living in the old times. You're still not yet up to date yet, and that's fine. And if people would just leave them alone, a lot of times they get along a lot better than the people in the city. For gosh sakes, there's still problems out here. Don't get me wrong, I understand that, but people need to wake up. There's things out here you cannot explain, and the only way you can explain it is in the spiritual realm. That's it.
Amazing,
Yep.
right there. You said it really well, Terry.
Yep.
Thank you.
Low
Thank you.
on time, guys. We're running low on time. Darren, do you have any more questions you want to ask before we have Terry say her final thoughts?
Oh no, not much right now. But you having a lot of amazing stories for the service that you had out here. I'm pretty sure that's not all of it. I'm more than sure. You can have one happen tonight or tomorrow, living out there.
Oh yeah.
So, thank you for coming on. This is actually a pre-recording right now, but still, thank you for your time, and yeah, very much. Thank you. You have a very nice radio voice for this.
Thank
too.
you. Thank you.
Very nice radio voice.
Here, nice and clear.
Yeah.
Out of all the areas you've been, Terry, which one's the most one that really shook you or had you on your toes?
I don't know. I think really the Apache Rez is a little bit creepier in a way than the Navajo Rez. At least up here you got line of sight. You can see what's out around you a little bit.
Right.
But even up on the Navajo Rez, you get in some of these areas. There's a place. To me, it's beautiful. You go up northeast of Kindlechee. It is gorgeous up there, but you just got this feeling there's just something not quite right. I can't exactly explain it. Just something in, you look around and there's some high sheep pastures up there, and it's gorgeous. Big, tall pine trees. That's my kind of territory. Bigger mountains and tall pine trees. Narbona Pass, I love it up there. But, you get around some of these places and they just, somewhere north of Kindlechee, and it just doesn't quite feel right sometimes. Maybe it's because the trees are so close and you don't have a lot of room to move, I mean, the trees up there are pretty thick. And down the Apache Rez, you get the same feeling. You go down and there's one place that we went back in there to, it's about as far back as we could go. And we had about a month where a bunch of teenagers were just killing themselves just almost every night. And that was creepy. And the one that was back in there, the guy was hanging from a tree. And the furthest back that we could go, it was a dead end. And that was just always kind of stuck to you, and it's like, oh, something not quite right back here. But, I loved it down in there. I mean, the Apache Rez is beautiful. I'm like you. It's a beautiful place to be. There's animals, and I love animals anyway. There's all kinds of animals, but there's all kinds of creepy stuff down there too. And you just never know what you're going to bump into. Same way up here on the Navajo Rez. There's some really gorgeous places up here, but you never know what you're going to bump into. And that's what keeps you on your toes. You never know who or what you're going to bump into. And that's what makes my life exciting.
It kind of makes you on your makes you tick, and it makes you keep you on your toes.
Yep.
Cross the T's.
Oh yeah,
if you will. Terry is also a team member also as well of our LLA Alka team. So we have a paramedic, and she has a huge pistol, a huge hand cannon. So all else fails, we'll just huddle around Terry. She'll have a huge.
No! Just got to remember, I've got a limited amount of bullets. So.
Make them count. We'll use all ours.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, this is a fascinating place to be, especially when we started seeing the Bigfoot around here. It's like just made it that much more interesting. And like I said, whenever I get a chance and somebody will share with me some of the cultural things, and I've walked into some of those by accident. Walked into something and I'm like, and then I have to go outside when we get done and ask my partner, what was all that about? And I've seen a few of those things too that don't look right. That you're like, just one short story. This was down here near Sanders. We went out for a kid that had hung himself, and we got down there and they'd cut him down already. And my partner, she was pretty sensitive, and her dad had trained alongside some medicine men for a long time, so she was pretty sensitive. But there was something in the rafters. I don't remember what it was, but there was something up there and made her uneasy. And we went back outside, and she got in the truck, and we were waiting for the police to get there. And she said, "This is wrong." I said, "What do you mean?" And she said, "That kid didn't hang himself." I said, "I kind of had that feeling too." She said, "There was something in the rafters that she saw that made her believe that he'd been murdered." And there's I saw it, but I don't remember what it was right off the top of my head. But like I said, she was culturally more sensitive and spiritually more sensitive about some of that stuff. And when she's told me stuff like that, I usually believed it, because it's like there's something she's trying to tell me to watch my back. And so, there was somebody was hovering, and there was an NAC tent there, and she thought it had something to do with that. They were trying to do a healing ceremony for the boy, but yet that night he goes out and hangs himself. Something wasn't right. But I was watching her, and like I said, those are the kind of things where sometimes I need a little help. If I've got a native partner with me, which I usually do, and not all of them are as versed as some of the others, but I'll get little tidbits here and there, and I'm still haven't made the whole picture, but I'm it fascinates me all that much more because I learn stuff, and there's never a day that goes by that you can't learn something. And like I said, it's a learning process out here.
Yeah. Everyone, welcome. Move to the Southwest. No, just kidding.
Yeah,
You like extra elbow room. So you like extra elbow room. No, just kidding.
yeah, no kidding.
But you have a lot of amazing stories, and I know everyone's gonna be saying, "Bring her back, bring her back." I'm like, oh, definitely. Hopefully,
I'll have to get some new.
Bring some. Go ahead.
I'll have to get some new stories.
Oh man. Oh, remember I told you before we started this podcast, Darren and I, we knew each other, and I was like, wait, let me start a podcast, then we can talk about the Centaurs and everything crazy, the Skinwalkers.
Yep.
Boom. So you guys were all part of it as well. Motivation for Darren and I to get this started off. But
cool.
Darren, you want to say your latest to everybody before we close out?
Oh, yeah. Laters. Have a good one. Have a good night. Good morning.
I'm gonna say laters to yeah. I'm gonna say laters to your sister. Your sister, Lee, Tyson. I was just kidding. But yeah, Terry, thank you again for your time. We appreciate it.
No problem.
Yep. And welcome to the family again. You're a part of the family.
Yep.
We'll definitely get together and schedule a part 2. We'll give some time for
the
audience to get all this in, and I'm pretty sure they'll ask some questions as well. We try to get everyone as much as we can.
You have to give me a little time to find some more fun stories.
Oh yeah, definitely. We'll keep in touch. All right, Darren, any final thoughts?
Oh no, just keep your eyes open. Keep your spirit alive. Keep it well maintained, especially out there on the reservation. You don't know what's out there. You could run into a Bigfoot, or you could run into something else. But you take care of yourselves. Take care of each other.
Thank you, Darren. It's good to meet you.
Thank you.
And sooner or later, hopefully, we'll meet face to face for too long. I'm sure.
Yeah, we'll run down some lights.
I'm
out here.
I'm just kidding. Definitely, we'll all get together down there. Probably, this month. Hopefully, maybe. But definitely, we should all come together to do a documentary in the future.
Yeah, that'd be
Terry,
fun.
You want to? Terry, do you have any final thoughts before we wrap this show up?
No, like I said, I'm just anxious to finally get a meet you face to face one of these days. And, it seemed like people keep telling us things. I think the more that we get out there and they see what's going on, they come and tell us, which is fine. And, we'll pass it on to whoever we can. And, maybe we can actually get a good eyeball on some of these things. Just never know. But it's a fun place to. Well, I've always liked res medicine because you never know what you're going to see, and you see everything. So it's always a good. I'm serious. It's a blast. You get a chance to get out there and help people. You really do, and that's the important thing. And if anybody sees me or wants to talk at me, I'm in Ganado. You're more than welcome to come up and have a talk anytime.
Oh yes, please. As a reminder out there, everyone. Please don't forget to thank your local public servant from the police department to paramedic to fire department. Those guys are really looking out for us and doing the best they can to make to help our community out and to help our people. We always need help, and please pray for them. Keep Miss Terry in your prayers, and as well as everyone else, and especially your neighbor. Love your neighbor.
That's right.
That being said, guys, I'm gonna be kicking you guys off, reading the outro. Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Darren. Good job, guys.
Hey, good night, y'all. Have a good one.
Okay,
a good one.
Good night. All right. Thank you for tuning in to Don't Whistle at Night. We've been broadcasting live here on the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM. In New Orleans. You guys stay safe, take care, and remember, don't whistle at night.
Welcome to Don't Whistle at Night podcast, where Navajo legends echo in the shadows. Darren and Dawn will guide you through the sacred fire of native storytelling, where the old stories breathe, the unknown walks among us, and voices, long hidden, rise to be heard. And remember, don't whistle at night.